Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It is June the 16th, 2025, 5:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12:50 a.m. in Ukraine and also in Israel, where both nations are under heavy, intensive airstrikes right now. We'll keep you posted on that. But right now, I am speaking out for my Ukrainian friends, those soldiers on the front lines, those families that have lost lives. They are disgusted by what President Donald Trump stated today at the G7 meeting, and they said and asked, Greg, please share this message to the world. That was not Donald Trump speaking. That was Vladimir Putin speaking through Donald Trump. Putin was allowed to speak to the world and basically tell the world that his feelings are hurt because he was kicked out of the G8. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe that these words would even come out, and the background of it is just so out of line, and there is no education or understanding at what the true picture of what is happening in Ukraine and what Vladimir Putin is not only doing in Ukraine, but guys, also Middle East, Far East, United States, around the world, pulling the strings as he's sitting on the throne now. So I want to go straight to the video. I want to share this. We'll make a few comments on it, and then I'm looking forward to see what are your thoughts. Are you as disgusted as my Ukrainian friends? Are you as angry as I am about this? Let's get right to it. Here is the video, and we'll make a couple of comments along the way.
The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to throw blame to Barack Obama. You need to remember this, and Trudeau, so he's slapping Canadians right there. And we wouldn't have a war if Putin was still here.
And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago.
And you wouldn't have a war if Trump was president 4 years ago. But just a few days ago, he was saying, I'm glad I wasn't president 4 years ago so that I can enjoy the military parade and I can enjoy what World Cup soccer and all these other great things America is doing. God is in control of when I was scheduled to become president. You know, the message doesn't line up. And by the way, Putin had already invaded Crimea illegally in 2014, March the 18th. 2 years before your first term, dear sir.
It didn't work out that way, but it used to be the G8, and now it's, I guess, what's that, 8 years ago, it switched over.
What's interesting to me is if you watch Carney, it's like he is in torture.
They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake, even though I wasn't in politics then. I was very loud about it.
You know, it was a mistake then. I wasn't in politics. I screamed loud about it because they threw Putin out. Let's see. A sitting member of the G8 invaded a sovereign nation and took it over. That's who should be sitting on the G8.
It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia and he's no longer at the table. So it makes life more complicated. But
you see, you talk about Russia, but really what you're displaying is Putin's message, dear sir. It's that bromance.
You wouldn't have had the war. Other than that, I think we're going to accomplish a lot.
As you mentioned Putin, do you think that he should have a seat at the G7 today, that it should be the G8?
I'm not saying he should at this point, because...
All right. At least here we have, and I'm going to be fair, we call it straight. At least he's saying, well, maybe not at this point. But listen.
Too much water's gone over the dam, maybe. But it was a big mistake. Obama didn't want him.
It was a big mistake to get rid of him. Obama didn't want him.
And the head of your country, the proud head of your country, didn't want him. This was a big mistake. You wouldn't have that war. You know, you have your enemy at the table. Even, I don't even consider him, he wasn't really an enemy at that time.
You have your enemy at the table. Well, you know, he's really not an enemy. I'm telling you guys, this is Putin speaking through Trump at the G7. I'm sorry. Let's just call it what it is. These are Putin's words.
There was no concept. If I were president, this war would have never happened.
Here we go again. If I was president, this war would never have happened. Let's see. You've been president. You promised to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, then 100 days. Oh, there's supposed to be a huge sanctions bill a few weeks ago. You blocked that. Lindsey Graham went off spouting all these powerful words. We're not hearing any more about that. Let's see. The war in Russia and Ukraine has escalated to unbelievable proportions right now. Massive air raids happening right now. Oh, we also have a razor's edge from a nuclear war between Iran and Israel. But you know, you are the president. How's that working out for you?
Happen. But likewise, if he were a member of what was called the G8 at that time, it was always the G8, you wouldn't have a war right now.
Why not have China at the G8? Why not have China here, the biggest economy in the world after the United States?
Well, it's not a bad idea.
Well, let's go ahead and bring China into the G8. That's not a bad idea. Listen, let's go ahead and put North Korea in the G8. Trump would love it. He could sit between Putin and Xi and Rocket Boy, Kim Jong-un.
I don't mind that. If somebody wants to suggest China coming in, I think we suggest. But you want to have people that you can talk to. You know, they don't talk to. Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else.
Oh, my goodness. Putin only speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else. That's why I stand behind the thumbnail and the title 100%. You're right. Putin speaking today through Donald Trump.
He doesn't want to talk because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the G8. As I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. He was very insulted. And, I mean, he was thrown out by Trudeau, who convinced one or two people, along with Obama. He was thrown out, and he's not a happy person about it, I can tell you that. He basically doesn't even speak to the people that throw him out, and I agree with him.
He's so insulted because everybody threw him out of the G8. That Obama, that Trudeau, it's all their fault so many years ago. That's the reason the whole world is messed up and a fireball right now. You know, I think I agree with him. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard Vladimir Putin speak directly through Donald J. Trump at the G7 in Canada. Tomorrow, Zelensky will be arriving. Zelensky wanting to make a deal with Donald Trump to purchase weapons. No gifts, no handouts. Let's make a deal. But you can see who he has to deal with. He has to deal with Putin in Russia, and he'll have to deal with Putin's mouthpiece in Canada. What are your thoughts about this? Because I didn't hear anything else but Vladimir Putin's words. Oh, by the way, welcome, Xi. Kim Jong-un. You know what? Let's just bring all the bricks in to have a nice deal party. Thank you guys for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all of those things, doing our best to share the exact truth on what is really happening. Be blessed.